Hello, I'm Jon Rahm, and this is my scorecard confessional. All right, we'll start it on one. So first hole, wind is in out of the left. It's not the hardest tee shot in Valderrama, certainly not the easiest. And for me, it's a choice between driver and 3-wood. It wasn't hurting too much that day at that time, so driver could get me in trouble. The fairway get quite narrow, so I hit a 3-wood, just a stock 3-wood. Aim left, rather miss it left than right. Usually have a shot from the left side, so thinned it just a little bit, spun up in the air, but the wind brought it back. It faded in the fairway to a back pin. Forget the exact number, but I went what I call the shoulder shot with the pitching wedge. Little draw against the wind, hit a perfect shot, pin high, 10 feet. Hit a good putt about a cup out, just a little bit too much break. It didn't quite break as much as I wanted to, but it's a very solid way of starting the Sunday round, right? Hitting 3 great shots, easy par, chance of birdie, move on. Second hole, well, you kind of have to make a decision of that tee off. Are you taking the tree on? Are you leaving it short? Are you leaving it long, right? And having gone through the fairway twice on the left, I took a little bit more on the tree, hit a 3-wood because it wasn't hurting too much wind-wise. Hit a really good shot, and he went at the middle of the tree. Hit the tree branches, and at that point, it's a bit of a lottery in which I got lucky. It ended directly underneath the tree and not too close to the right trees to where I still had a shot. So very similar shot to the shot on one, a little bit harder. Little draw around the tree branches, landed perfect in the middle of the green. Historically, that green has been firmer, but with the issues we had the first day, they watered a little bit, and he landed in a soft spot. Instead of bouncing to the back pin, it spun back to 30 feet, which is not the hardest to putt, but it does get your attention because it breaks so much from right to left, right? So still hit a great putt, almost made it. Third hole, par 3. You know where the wind's coming from, but if you see on TV, there's a massive bush on the left, right? So you feel no wind whatsoever, and you're limited on how far left you can start the ball to a short left pin. So wind of the left, in theory, not helping, and I go with, I believe it was 160 meters more or less, maybe a little bit less, and I go with a 3/4 draw with the 8-iron. I started it a little bit right of where I wanted to, but it was still going inside the right edge of the green, which small greens in Valderrama, so it would have still been a decent look at birdie, even from 35 feet away. But the wind took it, a little bit of downwind, lands just off the green, and takes a big bounce into the rough, but still a fine spot to leave it. I wasn't short-sided, in which from there I hit a back-footed 56. It's a chip that would be right early, left at the end. Hit a great shot, but on the second bounce, instead of being a normal soft bounce, it was one of those where it kind of just shot forward. It looked like it landed on the edge of something, and it didn't bounce, and it just skid and rolled right away. So he rolled about 6 feet past the hole, almost hit the hole. So it went 6 feet by. So we're just outside the edge, made a perfect stroke. Better stroke feeling all week. By the time I looked up, that ball was tracking dead center of the hole. Went in. That was a very nice confidence booster. Got to 4. Into the wind, a little bit off the right. If I hit a good one, I may be able to reach, but unlikely to go for because the green is very difficult, right? So absolutely hit one of the better drives of the week. Hit it really far down the center and had to make a decision. I could have hit a 5-wood, but the obvious miss is left with the water right to a left pin. Bunker's tricky, rough is tricky. I ended up deciding to lay up, and I believe I only hit like a 7-iron to the layup spot to give myself enough distance and angle to that back left pin because it's perched up, right? Like short, it's a big slope, and right, it kind of slopes away as well. Left myself a great number, 90 meters, 56-degree wedge, perfect. Landed short, almost went in, spun to 5 feet. Fairly straight putt. I mean, I think it was right edge, up a hill, right, as comfortable as it gets, made it. Great way to start the round, right? Running through 4 in Valderrama, take it. Take birdies anytime, especially knowing that you have 5 and 6 downwind coming up, which on 5 plays downhill quite a bit. There's a bunker on the left, and you just want to be able to cover the right side of that bunker. That's the flattest part of the fairway. 5-iron because it was so downwind. I think it was about 210 meters to cover the bunker, which I don't usually do with the 5-iron, but aim there, let the wind take it to the center, and I had a bit of an in-between number with the wedges to that right pin, right? The green, the right side is lower than the left. It's a slope in the middle, but all of it is front to back. And even though the greens were soft, it usually will bounce forward, and that slope where you're trying to land it usually gets firm very fast. So even though it was early in the day, I was aware that that could happen. And I chose to have a little bit of faith on the greens being receptive. And I hit a lower shot, to 110-meter shot with the wind down of the left, and I pulled it slightly, hit it a little bit harder than I wanted. Landed towards the back, about 5 past it, and stayed there, which is great. It's a very good look at it, 20 feet. Right on line, short. Great putt, good way to go. Go to the 6th hole, that left pin. Probably the second hardest pin on that hole. I'd say the hardest is the back one that we don't play because it's probably gotten too sloped. Short hole, short distance, and it's down off the right. So, pitching wedge. Great number for a little 3/4 draw pitching wedge. Hit it perfect, ended up, it landed 2 paces past it. But again, it's so pitched from left to right and back to front that, I mean, it looked like 10 feet and I was aiming about 5 of them to the right. So that's always tricky to figure out pace-wise, right? Now we go to the 7th. Historically, a par 5 converted into a par 4. Not the easiest in general, but it does play tricky because the fairway all rolls out to the right, and if you hit it really far down there on the right half, you might have some tree branches on the way to that right pin on that green, right? It's 3 sections, short, back left, and the right. The right side covered by a bunker, the shallower part of the green. And there was parts of that green that were getting firmer, so if you missed the fairway, it was harder, which I did. I hit a great tee shot, stayed just left in the rough, and even though I was short iron distance in, I couldn't be too aggressive, so I hit a great shot, landed on the front edge, released towards the middle, and I took my 30 feet because there's really so much I could do, right? Had I gone at the pin, I probably would have gambled a little bit too much. 2-putter from there, went to the 8th. The 8th became a little bit of, I would say, adventure, because you have the choice to lay up to a short par 4, right? It's a bit of a zigzag fairway, very narrow, where you're laying up with an iron, slopes left to right, trees on the way, so you have to be very accurate with that layup. To that back left pin, I like pushing it up to the green. You're never going to hit the green, but on that greenside bunker or surroundings, I felt like it was a very good chance to possibly give myself a birdie putt. So I aimed on the left because it was very left to right wind, and hit a great drive, slightly pulled, never had fade, therefore it's going up the middle of the forest. And at that point, it's a bit of luck on how much of a shot you get. Luckily, I hit it far enough, and I was in a bit of a mulch area, which wasn't a perfect lie, but it wasn't the worst, and I had a shot under the tree limbs onto the green. My only play was a bit of a hope of hitting it low and hard. I was only about 40 yards away. Hit the rough short of the pin, and hopefully skip it up onto the green and give myself a putt. Hit a great shot, and it was a little bit too high, so it landed on, went over the green, which I was still fine with because I had plenty of green. It was a little downhill, but not overly, and it was a doable shot, right? Either short or long where I was, it was a doable up and down. Caught a decent line in the rough and hit a perfect chip, hit it to a foot, moved on to 9. 9 was downwind, and it's a choice again. I mean, you can lay up to the wide side of the fairway and leave yourself a longer shot. You can hit 5-wood, 3-wood driver, whatever you want. I ended up with 3-wood to give myself an easier wedge shot, so pushing it a little bit more. Hit a good shot, but he got fading a little bit too much. And on that side, usually starts kicking towards the right side. It sloped a little bit to the right and stayed on that first cut with some tree branches on the way, which if you ask for anybody to explain their round in Valderrama, you're going to hear a lot. I was in the fairway, but trees were on the way. That's just what happens. It's a narrow golf course with just core trees in play. That is the main defense of the course. So it was a gap wedge, and I had to try to fade it around the trees a little bit, but being on the first cut, I didn't have a lot of leverage, so aimed at the middle of the green and hoped it was the right distance, which it was. The green slopes left to right, so a bit of cut spin that I put in kind of sloped towards the pin. I ended up with 15 feet, pin high, a little right to left, buried that one dead center, which was a massive bonus. Now you get to 10, which it can be a tricky hole with the wind into, and it is off the tee, right? It's in of the left, getting a little bit harder at this point in the round. And essentially, you just need to hit it past the trees on the right, and you don't have a long club in. That's still not the easiest fairway. If you miss that fairway, you're struggling to a very elevated green without a lot of room to miss, right? And I went in with a 5-wood, hit a perfect tee shot, dead center, up on top of the fairway, flat lie. From then, a great pitching wedge again, a little bit of a draw shot, similar to what I did on 1 and 2, landed pin high, 6 feet, left edge, dead center as well. Great 2 holes to play, right? Just really good feelings, and all those putts were feeling good. Every putt I hit all day was feeling good. So at this point, I know, okay, I'm 3 under. Taylor was 1 over at the time, right? So I'm creeping up. I know if I play, take advantage of 11 again, I just need to survive holes like 12, 13, 14, and maybe give myself chances where you can, and maybe I can scare him enough, right, to give myself a chance. Go to 11, hit a great drive, and like most balls, lands in the fairway and ends up rolling off to the right. Luckily, I get a decent lie in the rough. It could have been a lot worse, and I decided to hit a 6-iron from far away, but it's an uphill lie, so I wanted the height on the ball to then hopefully have it trickle to as close to the front edge as possible. It's a front right pin, so it would be a fairly doable up and down, even if you're 30 from the front edge. And aim left, because it was front right, so I'll give myself as much room as possible. Hit a great shot. It was going towards the left bunker. It's a very narrow opening to hit that green, so the hopes weren't very high. And whether it was in the rough or the bunker, I was okay with it just because I had space. Yeah, it was about 10 paces from the front, about 8 from the pin after that. So all I had to do was land it past a little upslope on the front of the green and just let, at that point, the ball do its thing from the rough. Did exactly that. Hit a perfect shot, landed on my spot at 3 feet straight up the hill, make that putt. And at that point, I'm going to 12, which is a very difficult hole, thinking, okay, let's see if I can hit a good shot here. It's not a likely birdie, but 13 can be a birdie hole, and so can 14. You can complicate those holes very easily, but they're doable, right? You can have a short iron in if you hit the fairway. On 12, I make a great shot, and it was around the time of day where the wind was supposed to switch. At that point, while I was playing the hole, 11 was down, and 12 was supposed to be down off the right. And I hit the shot, and instantly we say, well, that ball's not flying like it's getting helped. And barely covered the right bunker, about 15 short of a pin, and trickled on. Barely, but it was safe. It's funny, Patrick Reed, I hit a 7-iron, Patrick Reed went after me, hit a 6-iron, perfect, and was short in the bunker. So at that point, we knew the wind had changed. We had to account for that, but I got lucky there. Hit a bad putt, left myself 4 feet, but made that one as well. It's one of those things that happen. Long distance putt, can't really leave it behind because it was a very steep slope, so erred on the side of caution over there. Went to 13, and the 13th hole from the tee, down the fairway you can see there's a tree. It's about 300 to 320 yards out, depending what the tee is. It does play downhill. And then there's also one tree on the right that sticks out. Ideally, in my mind, the way to play that hole, even though short of those 2 trees is the widest part, you want to get it past the right tree. Because if you get it past the right tree or under that left tree, you always will have a shot to the green. If you lay up short, your ball can kick to the right and you end up with no shot very often. And if it trickles in the rough, now hitting the green is difficult. So I either go with 3 wood or driver. Just make sure I get it past there and always have a shot. Hit a great 3 wood. Now with the wind being off the right, hitting my cut. Stayed a little bit on the left side and I didn't quite hit it flush, so it was a little shorter than I wanted to, and I had the left tree on the way a little bit, so I could have gone low, but I chose to go around it with a right to left wind and make sure that if anything, that ball was spinning towards the hole. And it's a 56-degree wedge. I was only about 110 meters out. Hooked it quite a bit, landed on the right half and spun toward the center. Gave myself 25 feet, which I'm perfectly happy with. And I don't know if my reaction is shown, but thought I made the putt. I thought that putt was in the entire way, and just at the end it drifts right. And to me, it just feels like half the ball levitated over the hole, over the edge of the hole, and it didn't go in, which was quite painful. But I was happy with that score. Also knowing that Taylor had birdied 11 doesn't help, right? So at that point, I have a bit of a sense of urgency to an extent. 14 had played into the wind most of the week, so now it's down off the left. Then it's another layup. You only need to hit it about 250 yards to sloped fairway, so you have to keep it on the right spot. If you hit it too far right to that right pin, you have trees on the way, on the fairway and on the green, so you have to keep it left. I did that. It just trickled into the first cut, but uphill lie, decent lie, downwind, around 100 meters. Again, a 56, a number that I'm comfortable with. And this is where I'll say I get lucky, because I caught it a little bit of the heel, which counteracted the flyer a little bit and landed perfectly pin high and stopped. I had enough spin to stop, and I left myself 5 feet in the fairly flat part of the green, not a lot of break, right? It was about a bowl out, hit that putt in the hole. Very similar feel to what I had on 9 and 10, right? Playing that hole, just seeing the ball. When you look up and you see that the ball's tracking dead center, is not moving, it's a very happy feeling, right? And you know it's going in. So now I'm going to 15 thinking, okay, 15, 16, 17, 18, if I play them 1 under, I have a really good chance. It's not easy, but I have a really good chance. Back pin on 15, into the wind of the right, and they put the up tee. Luckily, we're at up tee, so it was a little bit more accessible. And I hit a draw 7 iron. I was in between an easy cut 6 and a draw 7, and decided to go with a 7 because if I were to miss left with the 7, I had a chance of still staying on the green. If I tried to cut a 6 and I didn't fade it, that was for sure going long left, and that's a very bad spot. So as long as I hit that 7 solid, I know I'll be there. Probably the best swing of the day was that shot. And I think it was 175, 70 meters to the pin, 75 I believe. And that ball landed about 5 paces short, and it didn't release down like it usually does. It's downhill green. But I stayed in a great spot. Underread the putt. Maybe a touch soft, but still a good par on a hole that you can easily make a bogey. Now, in the last 3 holes, 16 and 18 are not the birdie holes, right? Those 2 holes are 2 that you're hoping to make par on, but you still need a proper tee shot and hope. So on 16, playing downwind, a fairway that goes up and down and to the right and then cambers away from the dogleg, it's extremely difficult to hit that fairway. So I always try to hit a club that will land on the top, if not just past it, and hope it stays in the fairway. If not, you will have a shot to the green. Maybe not the most amount of control, but you have a shot. If you're short of the dogleg, you have no shot. You have ball above your feet, trees right, no way to start it left. It's very, very difficult. So I hit a 5-wood, perfect 5-wood. The wind just didn't move it right as much as I thought. Stayed on the left half, and you went just through the fairway. But still on a good spot. Short iron to the green, straight downwind to a middle of the green pin. Another green it's a little bit more exposed to the wind, so it does get firm usually, and it was firmer. So if I landed it pin high, it would have gone long. Short of that green is always good, so I planned my shot to land maybe a couple paces on, and hopefully it releases, and I have myself 20 feet up the hill, right? Came out really short, really soft, landed short, stayed on the front edge, which is fine. It's a fine spot. I was happy with it. I could putt it. It's decently far away. It's a long lag putt, but luckily the greens weren't super rapid, and the wind wasn't in a way that would be hurting the putt. It was downwind, so focused a lot on the line because I had the speed that day, and I hit a great putt. Foot, moved on to 17. Now, 17 is a scoring opportunity. It's a short par 5, downwind. If I hit the fairway, I know for a fact I'm going to have less than an 8 iron coming in because how downwind and how firm the fairway gets. And I hit an incredibly good drive. I go after it. I hit a really good drive, perhaps a touch left, but it does kick right. I don't know until I get up there that I am 140 meters from the front edge or for the pin, which is 155 yards, straight downwind. I mean, had that ball been in the fairway, it was a pitching wedge at the pin, looking at a possibility for an eagle. Instead, he had gone through the fairway, unfortunately for me, and I had a tree on the way, and I couldn't start it anywhere left of the right edge of the green. So I had to make a decision. Do I risk it, trying to hook something in there and putting the bunkers in play, or do I just stake it on the right side, where if I am at the right edge of the green, I also have about 5 to 6 yards of flat fairway right of it, which is also where Taylor hit it and where I hit it, where it's almost like the green, right? So I aimed at the right edge and hit a perfect shot, landed on the green, stayed just off, but I have the entire length of the green, slopes back to front, right to left, with a bit of a nerve in the middle. So it's a putt that, in a weird way, with so much going on, it was fairly straight. I only aimed it just a little bit right of the hole, and I had practiced it on the practice round, so it's a speed draw more than anything else. The line wasn't a concern. I knew that if the line was somewhat okay, I was going to be within 4 feet of the hole, and I hit a great putt, and that thing was tracking the entire way until the end, where you broke just a little bit too much, but again, 3 feet straight up the hill. I couldn't have dreamed of a hole any better. Made that putt, and at that point I'm tied with Taylor going to 18, and he's in the rough, and I can't tell if he's going to hit the green or not because I can't see with the crowd. So I'm thinking, okay, a par may do it, but I may need a birdie. And 18 is difficult. So 18 is playing in of the left, and it's a serpentine fairway with dog legs left and then straightens out back when you have trees left and trees right. So you can either choose to lay up to the right and give yourself a long iron into a very difficult green that's firming up, like we saw Taylor do, which he hit a really accurate shot and still went just over the green, still putting. Or do you take it over the left corner and give yourself hopefully somewhere inside a 9-iron, right? And I chose to go with the 5-wood, try to hit a draw into the wind, where if I pulled it, I know most likely cover the trees. And if it were to hit the trees, I should be towards the end where I have a shot to the green. If I pushed it, I would be short of the right ones, and I'll have some kind of a shot to the green. And here came the worst swing of the entire tournament. Usually when I'm hitting a draw, because I'm a fader of the ball, I try to feel like I'm over-releasing it because of the left to right wind. I just want to make sure that ball's drawing and at least has the power to cover the trees. And man, it was just a bad swing where I did release it, but my hips didn't move, and I hit one of the biggest snap hooks I can hit. Where if you have long enough club, you can end up on the 10th fairway, like both my playing partners did. But unfortunately, I didn't. So I ended up in the middle of the trees with no shot whatsoever. So I wasn't happy about that. And I hit a wedge. It was a 52-degree wedge, I think, back into the fairway. Had I been a couple yards further right, I could have tried to push maybe an 9-iron over the trees and a flyer and see if I can get close to the edge of the green to give myself a chip, but I couldn't do it, so had to get over some trees. So I put in the fairway, ended up with a similar distance to what I did on 4, a little bit into the wind, to a pin on the back that is just past a bit of a hump in the middle of the green. So now you have to decide, do I land it short and hope it skips up, or do I land it pin high and try to spin it back? And that's what I went for. I was like, okay, I'm spinning it enough, it's into the wind. I'm gonna hit the 56 with a little draw because the ball was above my feet. Any miss hit should still skip up. If it lands pin high, I should use the back of the green to spin back and give myself a chance. Pulled it slightly, landed a yard left and gave myself 12 to 14 feet, but left of the pin, very straight putt uphill, left edge. And my only concern on that putt was to get it to the hole. It's like, it'll go in or it won't go in, but at least get it to the hole. And it's like a lot of the putts I hit in the day. Hit that putt. By the time I look up, that ball's tracking exactly where I want it to go, and it goes in dead center, and I can celebrate. It ended up not being enough, but it's what I would say was definitely my best round of the year so far. My best round at Valderrama ever, to play 6 under without a mistake on the card is quite incredible. And really only a couple putts that I could have said could have gone in, but the only one I would have said was the 1-on-1. That was the easiest chance that I gave away, because the 1-on-6 was too sloped. So that would be the only one I would say, okay, this could have been one better. But looking back on that, if I have to find a shot during that tournament, it's definitely not going to be on that Sunday round. I left a couple out there on Friday and Saturday, but still extremely happy with how I did it.